Hey guys, welcome back to the GM's Table, and I'm doing a quick little review of Genesis, which, if you're not familiar with it, here's what it normally looks like as a book. I have the PDF because all the books are on back order, but it is the generic version of this, or any of the three versions of Fantasy Flight Star Wars game. And I'll probably, if I want to reference, I'll probably be referencing this physically. But here's the thing, this is not going to be a super long review, a super in-depth review, because I'm going to be real honest up front. I'm not a huge fan of Fantasy Flight Star Wars. I think it has some cool ideas in it, but I don't like the dice. It's a personal preference. I know some people say it's the best thing to have this variable success system and all. I'm all for variable levels of success. Savage Worlds does that with raises. I'm all for success with a cost and failure with a bonus and all of that stuff. However, how they handled the dice, first and foremost, feels like a money grab. It feels like them trying to find a way to do DRM for books. On top of, with the symbols and everything, it kind of feels like reading chicken bones. If I'm going to be real honest, that's kind of how it is. I have some charts where I can reference things, but that's mainly how it goes, and Genesis is no different. If you're hoping it was different than Force or than any of the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, it's different in one aspect, and I'm going to get into that. And it is something I'm happy they did, but I'll get further into. That said, that out of the way, also, their dice are different, but really not. They just kind of tweak the symbols a bit. If you have the Star Wars dice, you can use them for Genesis. If they actually are good about producing the Genesis dice, you can get them and use them for Star Wars. More importantly, you can get the Star Wars starter sets, where you're going to get an adventure and stuff and dice for just a little more than what they charge for the dice, because the dice are not cheap. And this book isn't cheap. In PDF it is. It's $20, so it's not going to break the bank. Now, getting into the game itself. I'm not going into this full in-depth thing. But there was something that really worried me about a generic game, and I'm going to try and pull up a version, and it's these. In a Star Wars game, I love these trees, because this is how you more or less upgrade your classes. You take something, you go down the tree, or you can use the line down the tree to take something else. The further down, the more expensive they are. I was like, alright, how are they going to take class-based game that uses trees? You can't really separate a tree from a class unless you're renaming it, and then you didn't separate, you just renamed it. How are they going to do that? They ditched the trees. They've kind of shifted to a pyramid mentality, where you have to have 2 tier 1s before you can take a tier 2. You have to have 2 tier 2s, so you need 3 tier 1s to have 2 tier 2s before you can take a tier 3. That's how they go higher and higher up. And then they just kind of have it as a list, similar to edges and Savage Worlds or feats in D&D. But they do have tiers to each of the talents, which are more or less your special abilities. I love that in concept. My issue is with the talents themselves. Because for the most part, they suck. I'm sorry, there's some that are oh, that's nifty, and within the mechanics, that's cool. But nothing I've seen is really able to be character defining. There is nothing a character can take that can really help them go, oh man, that makes me feel seriously special. Now you can take magic, and they have rules for building magic, and take some stuff with that. But it makes you feel special in the sense of, I have magic versus those who didn't take it. That's really the only thing there. The actual talents in here have issues with their action economy, where there's things like, if you want to dual wield, you either take massive penalties or you take a talent, which is a tier 2 talent, so you have to do a good bit of investment, and it uses up your maneuver, which means you can't engage in melee with a new target the same round you activate being good at dual wielding. It's not just something you are. And it's a bunch of fiddly. That's my example. It's not the only thing. I have issues with how their animal companions work. A lot of the ones that are a little cool seem way higher up the tiers than they should be. And the max tier, the tiers go from 1 to 5. The max tier stuff is boring. And I'm not just talking oh man, it's nothing I'm into. It's you get to increase a characteristic, which is an attribute from one of those, by 1. That's it. And if you're not playing a sci-fi game, you got 4 of them, and that's basically what they are. There's one that can let you choose to take strain to decrease the difficulty of a check for a specific skill because you're a master of that skill. Okay, not that bad, but again, if we're comparing it to Force and Destiny, and I do get there's a different power curve, that's like mid-tier stuff. They totally rebalance the power curve. And Force and Destiny and Empire stuff isn't actually super high power. It's narratively focused. It's not min-maxy. It's not all of that stuff. They say when you're building a character, you can do a race or a profession, and that'll help you build stuff. I might have overlooked it. I've only read through the book twice, and I have a 4-year-old, so I'm constantly distracted. But I saw no races in this. There's stuff on making your own, but there's nothing included. There's some professions, and there's some like super generic, and then a handful of like, oh, in this setting, you could be a knight. And the professions pick what basically your class skills are. But it's all very meh to me. That's the best way I can put it. I'm really happy I got this from a friend and I didn't drop $20 on it, because even $20 for the PDF, I kind of feel ripped off. I'm not a huge fan of Fantasy Flight Star Wars, but this is a better, more coherent game. I know this can be divisive. And if you love Genesys, because some people are like really loving on it, that's fine. I'm never going to tell you you're wrong in the games you love. But on top of that, especially communities I've seen mainly 2 types of people that are really like, yes, for Genesys. It's the people that are going, the narrative dice are amazing. I love the narrative dice. They're the way to roleplay. If that's what you enjoy, great. They are not the way to roleplay for everybody. I think the narrative dice from these Fantasy Flight games have a similar issue that Fate has, where one person at your table who wants to be lazy about roleplaying or just isn't that great and experienced in it can crush a table. They can just have it all collapse. I don't think these systems really stand up on their own. They don't hold themselves up to a weak group. And not all of us are lucky enough to have groups where everyone's an expert role player. And having a system that falls apart if you're not firing on all cylinders in my opinion, is not the way to get people there. It's not a trial by fire. You gotta nurture and push up. Because if they do it and everything fails around them, I know a lot of players where that's going to be the thing that makes them give up on it. Not the thing that makes them better at role-playing. Again, anecdotal. Beyond that, though, I'm going to actually take this off now. I'm trying to find the best way to put it, because I don't want to bash it. Oh, I was talking about the 2 things. So there's the people who love that. And then there's the other people who will stand up and be like, look, it's a solid system. It's going to be really good when more supplements come out. For me, that is not a good sign of a system. GURPS is a great example of like a system that eventually gets to all kinds of stuff out. But at the end of the day, the core GURPS book, even though it's not my kind of system, is solid. It can handle a ton. Savage Worlds, my game of choice. Yes, this by itself does not do supers really well, and the companions and stuff all make this better. But this has a bunch of different genre adventures in the bag, and it shows it can handle a ton of games on its own. I don't believe Genesys actually handles much without supplements. And I'm, not to get too cynical, I'm not going to be surprised of that from Fantasy Flight. Because again, Force and Destiny is the perfect example. I ended up picking up the GM screen for this when I bought this book before even playing it. Because I found out the only way to have rules for Knight level play, so not just being a Jedi, but being a Jedi Knight, and the rules for building your own lightsaber, which is like fundamental to Padawan level play, weren't in this book. They were in a splat book that comes with the GM screen. Very, very fundamental things for a game that's all about being the Jedi. If one or the other weren't in it, then you go, okay, so it focuses on, like, if they had the Knight level stuff, okay, it focuses on, I would say the lightsaber should be in here and Knight level should be a supplement. But one or the other, that's fine. But they covered both the starting out, the something you need if you're dedicated into the lore and stuff, you need if you want a character who's just now becoming a Jedi. And then there's the stuff to start out as Jedi Knights. Those were both removed. So what is it, this middle weird area where you're not a Jedi Knight, but you're not truly a Padawan? That's the only thing the book actually covers without a few extra pages. And I kind of got that feeling throughout most of Genesis, where it's like there is a lot here, but it is missing some fundamental stuff. They don't want to lean into one genre or another. I get that for a generic system, but they don't give you anything for any genre either. They give you the most bland of options in this book. Really, when I read that, I'm like, they're options. None of them really feel special, really feel unique. So I don't like bashing things, and again, I can see where people are liking stuff in this, but this is not the system for me. I hope anybody who's on the fence and might be deciding on this helps you, because again, I have stuff. If you enjoy the narrative dice, if you want to take Force and Destiny or any of the Star Wars books and make them classless, Genesis is how you do it. 100% how you do it, because you can take the talents in here, you know what tier everything is because of the trees, and you can just strip the classes out. And that's amazing. That's so awesome to me. And if you're super dedicated into this, because I know a lot of people that love this game, Genesis is actually kind of a really good supplement, especially the PDF at $20. You know, like around $60 for the hardcover, I wouldn't say it's a great sell. But it gives you great stuff there. I will go a little into the gear and stuff. There's really no gear. It's sections on how to, for the GM to design the gear. The way I describe this game, and it's not a point for point, so don't get up because like, well, actually, but the best way I could describe this game to someone who asked me about it is, it's kind of what Pathfinder is to 5th edition, Genesis is to Fate. It wants to be this super narrative game, but they want to just have mechanic on mechanic on mechanic. And grant, Pathfinder has some underlying elegance to it, and there's bloat issues, but core Pathfinder does have elegance to it. Genesis is trying to do that, but they also don't want to dedicate themselves enough to really bite in and get a good hold. Unless they put out really, really great supplemental stuff for this, I don't see this system taking off huge. I don't. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they come out with books that make it amazing for the people who love it. Because if you love gaming and this is how you love gaming, all for it. But I don't think it's ever going to see my table. Anyways, guys, I hope that helps you with a last-minute holiday buying guides or stuff to do with your Christmas money once you have it. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye. If you like that video, check out another video over here. Whatever it is, it's probably pretty good. Don't forget to like, share so other people can find the channel, and subscribe right up there. YouTube now won't let me put a link to the Patreon, but there is a link down in the description below. So if you want to help support the channel, check that out, and I will catch you guys next time.